Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Fairy Tale Fridays. Today we're going to be looking at a lesser-known but nonetheless amazing fairy tale by Hans Christian Andersen called The Red Shoes. This fairy tale was originally published in 1845 in a collection of stories titled The Improvisatore, which also contained the fairy tale The Snow Queen. But don't worry if you haven't heard of that one, because we've got an entire series dedicated to it right here. Just like all of Andersen's tales, the story has been adapted many times for film, television, and even ballet. In fact, there was a popular 1948 film adaptation starring the legendary dancer Margot Fonteyn, and in 2006, there was a made-for-television movie starring Anne Hathaway. However, today we'll be focusing on Andersen's original version. So let's get started. Once upon a time, there was a young girl who loved to dance more than anything else in the world. Her mother was a poor woman who earned a living as a seamstress, so she couldn't afford dance lessons for her daughter, but she did everything she could to try and make her little girl happy. One day, while walking through the market, the mother saw a pair of red shoes sitting on a shoe rack. They were small and dainty and looked just like they had been made for her daughter. Not being able to resist, the mother bought the shoes for her, and when she brought them home, the girl was overjoyed. She tried them on and they fit perfectly. Then she put them on and began dancing around the room. She twirled and leaped and curtsied and stamped her feet until she was breathless and weak from exhaustion. But she didn't care. All she could think about were the shoes and how beautiful she looked in them. She loved those red shoes more than anything else in the world. And she wore them everywhere. She wore them to the market with her mother. She wore them to school with her friends. And even when she went out to play, she would always have her red shoes on. Everyone in town knew about the girl and her red shoes. Some people thought they were pretty, and some people thought they were silly. But no one understood why the girl wore them so much. After all, they were just a pair of red shoes. But to the girl, they were so much more than that. They represented freedom and joy and the chance to be something more than what she was. You see, the girl wasn't just any ordinary girl. She was a princess, the daughter of the king. But she didn't know it yet. She had been raised as an ordinary girl because her parents had kept her true identity a secret from her. But now that she had her red shoes, she felt like she could do anything. One day, the king announced that there would be a grand ball at the palace. All the young ladies in the kingdom were invited to attend, and the king hoped that his daughter would meet a nice young man and they could become engaged. The girl's mother got very excited when she heard this news. She knew that her daughter would make a wonderful princess, and she hoped that the king would finally recognize her as his child. So she spent the next few days sewing her daughter a beautiful gown for the ball. It was made of the finest silk and velvet, and it was the most beautiful dress the girl had ever seen. The girl was so happy when her mother showed it to her. She put it on and danced around the room. Then she looked down at her feet and realized she still had her red shoes on. She didn't want to take them off, but she knew she couldn't go to the ball wearing them. Her mother told her that she wouldn't be allowed inside the palace gates if she wasn't wearing proper shoes. So reluctantly, the girl took off her red shoes and put on a pair of white slippers. Then she and her mother left the house and walked toward the palace. As they walked, the girl couldn't help but look back at her red shoes lying on the ground. She wanted to pick them up and wear them so badly, but she knew she couldn't. When they arrived at the palace, the girl entered the ballroom and everyone stared at her in amazement. She was the most beautiful girl in the room, and the king was so pleased that he offered her a place at his daughter's table. The girl accepted, and soon she was dancing with the prince. They waltzed and fox-trotted and did the promenade, and the girl felt like she was on top of the world. But after a while, she began to feel uneasy. She didn't know why, but she suddenly wanted to leave the ballroom and go home. She excused herself from the prince and walked over to a window. As she looked out at the night sky, she saw a pair of red shoes lying on the ground below. The girl's heart skipped a beat. She knew those shoes were hers, and she wanted to get them back. So she opened the window and climbed onto the ledge. Then she jumped down and ran as fast as she could to retrieve her red shoes. She put them on and began dancing around the palace. She was so happy to have them back. But then she noticed something strange. Her slippers were gone, and she was now wearing nothing but her red shoes. She tried to take them off, but they wouldn't come off. No matter how hard she pulled, they were stuck to her feet like glue. And then she heard a voice saying, "You may not take these shoes off, and you must dance in them forever." The girl screamed in terror. She tried to run away, but the shoes were too tight, and they made her dance faster and faster. She stumbled and fell, but she couldn't stop dancing. And as she danced, the shoes became more and more tight, until finally she was only able to move her feet forward and backward. She was trapped inside her red shoes, and she would never be able to stop dancing. As the sun began to rise, the girl sat down on a stone and cried. She wished she had never left her home. She wished she had never put on the red shoes. But there was no one there to help her. No one could see her, and so she was forced to keep dancing in her red shoes all day long. The people of the town came outside to watch her dance, and they laughed and pointed and made fun of her. But the girl didn't care. She was too busy trying to free her feet from the shoes. She kicked and clawed and bit, but nothing worked. Then she remembered her mother, and she began to call out for her. At first, her mother didn't hear her, but eventually she did. The mother ran as fast as she could to the ballroom, and when she saw her daughter dancing in her red shoes, she was horrified. She knew what had happened, and she knew there was no way to break the curse. So the mother sat down beside her daughter and stayed with her until the end of her life. Together, they danced in the red shoes all day long, and no one could understand why the mother would stay with her crazy daughter. But the mother didn't care. She loved her daughter more than anything else in the world, and she would do anything to make her happy, even if that meant dancing in red shoes forever. And that, my friends, is the story of the red shoes. What did you think? Did you like this story? Let me know in the comments below. And while you're there, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an upload. If you enjoyed this video, I also recommend checking out our podcast where we discuss all things related to fairy tales. We would love it if you could join us for a new episode every Monday and Friday at 8 a.m. Arizona time on our podcast channel or wherever you listen to podcasts. Until next time, my friends, stay safe, stay curious, and carry a red shoe just in case.